Well, I don't know if you see what I see, but what I see is a number of representatives of the greatest sport on planet Earth. I'm not talking about NASCAR racing. I'm not talking about ice hockey. I'm not talking about curling. I'm not talking about quoits. I'm not talking about lawn bowling. I'm not talking about jarts. I am not talking even about badminton. And I do love me a good game of badminton. Nope, not even badminton. What I'm talking about here is professional wrestling. Something that is foremost on my mind quite often, many times during the day, morning, noon, evening, and night. And a little bit of which I'm going to share with you right here on this episode of Tent Talks Tunes. Kids, there you go. You see the secret hand sign, TTT. That is your hand sign of high quality, low budget entertainment. Brought to you by the internet. That thing that we just hate to love and love to hate and apparently cannot live without. What can I tell you? I come on Facebook every Wednesday, circumstances permitting, at 7 o'clock p.m. to bring you the best, the very best in Tent Talks tunage. Welcome aboard, everybody. Good to have you here. But before I get overly optimistic and say welcome aboard, I got to make sure that everybody is aboard. This is what happens when you go live on the web stream thing. Anybody who's watching the rerun of this on YouTube will not be concerned in the slightest bit with my quandary right now. But here, now, in the real, in the raw, in the live, I got to make sure that I am indeed going out live. And apparently I am. I have viewers. We got Alan Versapellis, the traditional first man in the house, is now the first man in the house. Hello, Alan. Hello, Wesley Dixon. Hello, James Pogo. Ha ha ha. James Pogo said, hide the forks. He knows what he's talking about. Mike Lesser, normally tuning in from Vancouver, British Columbia, is now tuned in from Florida, the old stomping grounds. Mike, poor guy. What on earth would possess you to go back to Florida? I'm so sorry to hear that, man. My deepest condolences. Everybody out there, send your best wishes and most strong healing vibes to Mike because he's in Florida right now. And if you're in Florida, you need all the help you can get. I'm just saying. And, you know, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is in about a month because I, too, am taking a trip to Florida. Yes, I'm going to be visiting Florida. Good old mom said it's been a long time since I've seen her and she wants to see me again. I got friends down there who I have not seen in a long time. There's record stores I have not visited in a long time in South Florida. So I'm going to be in the same quandary, the same dire predicament that Mike is in right now in about a month's time. Yes, I too will be in my old tribal stomping grounds of Florida. So once you're done sending your best healing wishes to Mike, you can start sending some to me in advance because you know my opinions of Florida, and I will certainly take all the help I can get. Mike is tuning in. He says, yep, it still sucks, but family. That's right, family. You know, it's a strong tie. It's a tie that binds. Family, friends, and record stores. Yes, there are some really good record stores in Florida. And I have not done a record store trip to South Florida in, gee whiz, almost 7 years at this point. So it's way overdue. So, Mike, I feel your pain, and soon I will really be feeling your pain. Ugh. Gary Forney is tuned in. Gary says that this should be an interesting show. Well, Gary, isn't it always? I mean, come on. Give an old entrepreneur a break. Hey. All right. Enough of the introductory falderall. Let's get into the swing of things here. Let's take a look at the bulletin board. What do we see here on the bulletin board? Well, we see an event that is already in my rear view mirror. Played a really good show in Gastonia, North Carolina last Saturday with my old pal Mike Dietz from RBNX, a really fine noise band called Negative Racks, the always excellent Van Huskins from Charlottetown, and of course Little Ol' Me. It was a great time, good crowd. The staff and management of the Rooster are aces in my book. They gave us wonderful hospitality. PJ the sound man totally rocked it. Had a real good time. I will be very happy to play the Rooster again anytime they want to have me there. So we're going to take that down because it's done been done. But we got some stuff that is not done been done. We got some things that are coming up rapidly. This Saturday, January 10th, oh yes, in Riverside, or is it Riverdale? I don't ever remember these things. Riverdale, Georgia, Abdullah the Butcher, yes. That's where the tie-in comes from. You saw me waving the placard featuring great professional wrestlers of a certain era. Well, Abdullah the Butcher is one of them. He's having his 85th birthday soiree this Saturday in Riverdale, Georgia, at the Prince Hall Grand Lodge. It's going to be Anti-Scene, imagine that, Enda Groove Band, and Windsor Jones giving you an eclectic night of entertainment. It is a reward banquet, an honor banquet, a birthday banquet for Abdullah the Butcher. There are going to be many wrestlers in attendance. Lot of stuff going on besides the music. If you want to know more about it, check out the internet, the Facebook, the whatever. There is an event page for it. I've posted about it. It's on the official Anti-Scene page. There's a lot of information to be had about it. So, very excited. We are playing an all-wrestling set. That's right. You know, we have our album called Falls Count Anywhere, which is all songs about professional wrestling. Well, we're playing quite a few songs from that record this night. First time we've ever done that, at least since I've joined the band. Very excited about it. And who knows, if it turns out that the crowd can't get enough, we'll play more. Woo, 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 woo. It's what we call a WWW, win-win-win. After surviving that and picking up all the pieces in the rubble and the shards of glass and the chunks of barbed wire, I'm going to get my merch together and go to Lincolnton, North Carolina for the Needless Toys and Collectibles Record Show. Yes, indeedy do. I attended the Lincolnton Record Show last year as a civilian. Scored. Oh yes, I did walk out of there some fine, fun stuff. This time I will be set up with 2 tables, not 1, but 2 tables full of my usual awesome merch. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys will come out. January 17th, 10 to 4 a.m. to p.m., free admission, and as usual, I will be loaded for bear. And looking forward into the future, February 28th, in Gastonia once again, at the Gastonia Conference Center, the Carolina Sound Record and Music Expo. I will be set up to sell at that one as well. So 3 great events to look forward to in the very near future. James Pogo, you know, James Pogo has a great topic. He said that one of these Tent Talks tunes, he would love to hear about my experiences at the ECW Arena. Oh boy, I got a couple. I got 1 or 2, maybe 3. All I can say is attending the wrestling at the ECW Arena really honestly was like no other wrestling card before nor since. It was a phenomenon. So James Pogo, thank you for the suggestion. All I got to do is remember to do it. And I could easily devote an entire episode of Tent Talks Tunes to ECW, 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 when it actually meant something. A toast to the glory days of ECW when it actually meant something. All right, we got some mail. Pretty fair stack of mail. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. I don't want to belabor anything, but there's some cool stuff going on here. I got the 3-mile box cutter. I got my address. In case you couldn't see it there or you can't read that, I'll show it to you here, and maybe you can read this. Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 173, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. That's me. My mailbox hates to be empty. So here's something from my pals Rumble Road Records in Columbus, GA. I actually know what this is. This is something I mail ordered. And this is from an artist who I really like and who I have a lot of respect for, and who is going to be on TPOS, I'm told, by the artist himself. This is a brand new, tons of confetti inside this thing. Must be download codes. an actual physical media compact disc. And you guys know, if you knew me in the 90s, I was waging a one-man war on CDs, but I've now decided to kill the format with kindness because CDs have become what they were always supposed to be all along. Compact and affordable. And check it out. Moose, Trainwreck Roberts, brand new album on Rumble Road. Here you go. 24 songs. I've heard a lot of stuff by Moose. What's the name of this thing? A Decade of Hillbilly Mess. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Brand new by Moose Roberts. And yes, we can look forward to a Moose Roberts album on TPOS. Maybe sometime this year. Check this guy out. He rocks righteously. I am a fan of his stuff. And in fact, I'll be playing a show in March in his front yard, so to speak, in Bristol, Tennessee, with Pissy Chrissy making her concert debut. Very exciting, with Moose Roberts on top. More to look forward to. All right, here's another one. This is from Clinton Zilla. You saw the address before. I'm not going to show it to you again, because you already done seen it a couple times. This is something I know what's in here. I have not opened it yet, because I want to have the thrill of seeing it for the first time ever live with all of you. My frantic fans, my loyal listeners, my vivacious viewers, all of you who make Tent Talks Tunes not only possible, but probable. Clinton Zilla. Here we go. I got to use some of my wrestling finesse here. Got to get this thing in a arm bar and yank it out. Ah, there it is. Click your fingers. Tribute to Roky Erickson CD. Featuring most excellent musical acts such as October, The Happy Casualties, Before I Hang, hey, Anti-Scene, not once but twice, Knowledge is for Fools, hey, Malcolm Tent and Pissy Chrissy are on here, whoa, Dual Exhaust, Hammerlock, and a host of others, Josephus and the George Jonestown Massacre. These are some class acts, all doing songs by Roky Erickson. And I am really stoked to hear this. I don't know if Clinton Zilla's watching, but if Clinton Zilla, if you are, please, by all means, post a link so the public can get a gander at this and maybe give it a listen and check it out. Maybe even buy a copy. Ooh, imagine that. I will do my best to get some of these from Clinton Zilla to have at my table at the record shows and other fine events where you can find me flogging my wares and trying to make some money. Yeah, this is great. That's actually a real drawing made by Mrs. Zilla, Val. She drew that with pen and ink. How cool is that? That's worth the price of admission alone right there. Very exciting. Thank you, Clinton Zilla. All right, now, as threatened last week, Murray Gelman tuned in and said, hey, man, you better watch out. I'm sending you some stuff, and it's going to be good. Well, the postal gods are with us because here it is, the box from Murray Gelman himself. Specifically requested an on-air reveal. Hey, you know, guys, I normally don't take requests, but in this case, consider it done. And Murray Gelman, I hope you're watching right now. Ray Gelman, I hope you guys are actually tuned in right now because we do it all for you. It's happening right now with the 3-mile box cutter. We're going to open this very gingerly. I have a suspicion, I don't know for sure, but I have a suspicion that there's some printed matter in here. Joseph Charles, a.k.a. Little Itty Bitty Joe, says his favorite Roky Erickson song is Crazy, Crazy Mama, You Have My World Go Round. Yeah, man. Who might argue with that? A good song is a good song, you know what I mean. Here we go. Opening the box. The package from Murray Gelman in Tucson, Arizona. It's still hot to the touch. That's how you know it came from Tucson. And here we go. We're going to force the issue. Uh-oh. There's a spoiler for you right there. It is a comic book mailer. It's heavy and it's dense. Oh, yeah. This is some reading matter right here, kids. I'm getting excited right now. I've spent many a time at the spinner rack at the Palm Springs North drugstore in the suburban Florida division where I grew up because they had the best comic selection in the whole neighborhood. Pack's convenience store had comic books, but the good old neighborhood drugstore had the best comic book spinner. And oh man, the sheer number of quarters I spent on that comic book spinner. Wish I still had them all. Maybe I'm gonna get some of them now. Murray Gelman, what'd you send me? Well, okay, here it is. These are the backs. And we're gonna do a live on-air reveal as I go from back to front in this stack of comics. All right, here it is. Ah ha ha ha. Murray Gelman knows me very well. Murray Gelman knows exactly what floats my boat. He's heard me talk about this, if not specifically, then generally, and I have a suspicion that a certain tone is being set. There's a vintage edition of The Man-Thing. Ah ha ha. Defenders. What do these Marvel comics have in common from this era? Spider-Woman. Oh, yes. These are all favorites. Oh, yeah. The Savage Submariner. For what was a long time the only appearance of a villain called Force. I remember that. Captain America and the Falcon, one of the Jack Kirby issues. Let me tell you, some really bizarre, weird art and writing was done by Jack Kirby in this era. Like, really imponderable stuff. I love it. The Invincible Iron Man. Yeah, I had this one. The Blood Brothers. So cool. And, what do we got here? Somehow Murray Gelman, now this is really truly amazing, okay? I know that Murray Gelman has sent me this record because it's by the absolutely inimitable Dora Hall. Dora Hall was the dowager of the Dixie Cups paper cup fortune. And her husband, Mr. Dixie Cup, whatever his name was, Mr. Hall, I guess, decided that she had an immense amount of talent and bankrolled her career as a singer. And she produced dozens of albums. First single I've ever seen by Dora Hall, and wouldn't you know, it is packaged in a Dixie Cup dispenser advertising sleeve. Is that classy or is that classy? That's classy. That's almost as classy as Freddie Blassie. You put your wife's record out and you package it in a advertising sleeve for your paper cup company. Fantastic. And not only that, what's the song called on the B-side? Born to Lose. Can't wait to hear this. I'm sure it's going to be very bland and very mediocre, which does not make it bad in the slightest bit. Not at all. Ooh, here's some cool... Oh, wow, I wonder what these are. Here's a whole stack of these things. A stack of Tiny Tim placards. Are these vintage? What are they? They look vintage. Published by Ladmo Stuff, Phoenix, Arizona. This must be some real old stuff, man. Wow, this is really cool. Thank you, Murray Gelman. Murray Gelman, I'm going to have a lot of fun putting together a return package for you. So I got a couple of things you just might need. This is great. I might decorate one chunk of my wall with nothing but these because I love repeating images. I've got that in common with Andy Warhol. Very, very cool stuff. Murray Gelman, you're a mensch. Thank you. Wonderful stuff. And in case you were wondering what it was I was talking about what those things have in common, those comic books, they're all from that era when I was standing right in front of the spinner rack at the PSN pharmacy, eagerly awaiting the latest issues of Captain America, The Defenders, Man-Thing, Iron Man, Fantastic Four with the 20-cent price tag on the cover, the 25-cent cover price. Heck, even up to almost 50 cents. I think I stopped buying comics when they broke the 50-cent barrier. That was a pretty good run from like 1975 to about 1985. About 10 years I bought comics. Oh, man. Of course, the collection did not survive the move from Florida to Connecticut. when the decision was made to move to Connecticut and open up a record store, I had to sell off a lot of stuff, and the comic book collection was one of them things I sold off. So, inasmuch as it financed my move to Connecticut, I have no regrets. Inasmuch as I miss all those comic books, there's a little bit of regret. But Murray Gelman just sort of ameliorated that regret. Thank you, Murray. Next up, we got another box from Mr. Dennis Hyland, the CEO of Jackhammer Music USA. This is a box I was not expecting at all. Dennis Hyland has a way of doing that. He will Shanghai me periodically with mystery, unannounced, unsolicited, unasked for, yea, perhaps even uncalled for boxes in the mail, because he knows that the on-air unboxing can lead to all kinds of musical merriment, mischief, and mayhem. So, Dennis, you're actively grabbing the bull by the horns and waving a red flag in front of it at the same time. I'll pick up the petard and whip out the 3-mile box cutter, which is working on mile number 4 now. Every single inch that it cuts gets added to the total. We're into mile number 3 now, and inch by inch, we're working on 4 miles worth of activity on this box cutter. And we're opening it up. Jackhammer Music USA is the home of many fine bands, including Dennis Hyland's group Future Hate, who kick butt. The Almighty Anti-Scene have got a couple of releases on Jackhammer Music USA. Awesome stuff from Japan on Jackhammer Music USA. Check them out. What did Dennis send me? I don't know. We're going to find out. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, here's the first record on the stack. And I've learned in the past that when Dennis sends a stack of records, quite often there's a thematic arc to the unveiling. So we're going to start at the top. We have Tommy Atwood singing about This Side of the River. Harvest Records from Madisonville, Kentucky, 1973. Okay, still sealed. Now, Tommy Atwood sings about This Side of the River. Now, Tommy Atwood says, sing this song. Okay. No date on this one, but it must be from around the same time period. Liner notes from Carl Fitzgerald of WOKK Radio in Meridian, Mississippi, home of Peavy, saying right here that this man is for real. Well, he looks for real for me. So he sang a song about This Side of the River. He's going to sing this song, and now these guys, the Florida boys, have this kind of singing. That kind of singing. What is that kind of singing? Well, looks like they're singing that kind of singing, whatever it might be. It's like a very polite bunch of guys singing some stuff in their blue jackets and ties. Florida boys, oy vey. Canaan Records from Waco, Texas. Also looks like about the mid-70s. I think it's manufactured probably by Liberty. A lot of times you can tell what company manufactured the record by looking at the label design and the layout and the font. I want to say Liberty. I'll have to research that. Canaan Records. Very mysterious, very enigmatic. And what do you know? More Florida boys. Gospel Standards with the Florida Boys Quartet. Tommy Atwood. Okay. Now I see it's the web of interconnections. It's all Tommy Atwood related. Now it makes me wonder who Tommy Atwood is. There's got to be something about Tommy Atwood. Besides the fact that he's a Florida boy. Oh, look at that. Autographed, maybe? Very cool. Needless to say that I will be playing all of these. I've been listening to a lot of Stompin' Tom Connors lately. All my Canadian friends who are tuned in right now will certainly appreciate the name of Stompin' Tom Connors. So we're going to check out these Florida boys and these Tommy Atwoods and see what they have to offer. My curiosity is piqued. Dennis, Thank you for the always unusual package of stuff in the mail. I do appreciate it. And if you guys want to join in on the fun, there's the address, P.O. Box 173, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. Please do indeed take pains to send stuff to that mailing address, because the forwarding address I had on the old P.O. Box is officially expired, and I'm not going to get anything if you send it to me there. Mike Lesser tunes in. He knows Stompin' Tom Connors. Oh, yeah. It's Bud the Spud from the bright red mud, rolling down the highway smiling. The Spuds look big in the back of that rig. They're from Prince Edward Island. They're from Prince Edward Island. Yeah, Stompin' Tom. I love Stompin' Tom. I only own 2 Stompin' Tom albums on vinyl. And his stuff is pretty hard to find in the States. Stompin' Tom is really cool. He's a Canadian country western guy. And he made a conscious decision to sing only songs about Canada. He said that he would not rely on Nashville songwriters in order to make a country music career. So he did so. And as such, he's huge in Canada and virtually unknown in the States, which is a real shame because the guy is great. There's a real wide streak of novelty to his lyrics and his presentation. But he's a damn good songwriter, a great singer. And personally, I love hearing all these songs about Canada. You know, to hear stuff about Prince Edward Island and Mississauga and the Ontario Provincial Police. You know, it's just Big Joe Mufferall, like all these strictly Canadian references. I really dig it. It's like a crash course in civics and history from a country that, as far as those of us here in the south of the border are concerned, might as well not even exist. So yeah, go Stompin' Tom. Let's have some of that Canadian-centric music. And I always have my eye peeled for more Stompin' Tom Connors records. So yeah, really cool. All right. That was the bulletin board. That was the mailbox. Isn't that great? We've already had a half-hour show, and I haven't even gotten into the meat of the matter of Tent Talks Tunes, which is when man meets AI in the recording studio. Oh, yes. AI. Sounds like I'm singing a lament of woe. AI. In a way, I am. AI is kind of like the internet. It's come along and it's taken over a whole lot of stuff, whether we like it or not. Excuse me. And like the internet, it was a nonstop, rapid-fire race straight to the bottom as far as what you can do with AI. And I'm not even going to get into any of that. I'm sure you have your own opinion on it. I'm just going to leave it there. But like all things that have been cheapened and degraded over time, AI is not a bad thing. You must not blame the science itself for what people have done with it. And I really don't do anything with it except music. I don't write music with it. I don't produce music with it. But I use one fantastic tool that I came across. I now use it almost every day in my activities as the record label mogul for TPOS, which you're welcome to check out on my eBay, my Bandcamp, and my Discogs. I do a lot of recording bands in the field. You can hear a lot about that on my YouTube channel. I also release a lot of stuff. I re-release a lot of stuff. I'm pretty good at getting things into circulation that have never been in circulation before. And one of the things that has always vexed me, and any of you guys and gals out there who work in audio will be able to appreciate this for sure. What's always vexed me is recordings that were made a long time ago that suffer from a poor mix. Which is to say that you've got a finished recording, but maybe the vocals are too loud. Maybe the vocals are too quiet. Maybe the drums are overpowering in the mix. maybe every time there's a lead guitar part, the lead guitar part jumps out of the speakers and is disproportionately loud. And for the longest time, you just kind of had to grin and bear it. There really wasn't anything you could do to fix things like that. Because once the mix was finalized and pressed onto vinyl or dubbed onto tape or whatever, that was it. It was a done deal. Unless you could somehow get access to the original multi-track master tapes, in which one track would be like guitar, one track would be bass, one would be drums, one would be vocals, etc. Get the original multi-track and mix it yourself to correct the levels and make everything nice and even and flowing. And the odds of that, are typically slim to none unless you own the master tape yourself. So, decades in this business, an entire lifetime of listening to music and enjoying music and being a fan of music, bedeviled by the bad mix. And I'll show you an example of one right here, right now, which I just happen to have at my fingertips. This goes back a long time. A lot of these things go back a long time. This one goes back specifically to 1990, when a group who I'm very fond of called the Nova Mob released an album entitled The Last Days of Pompeii. Now, for those of you who may not know, the Nova Mob was the brainchild of Grant Hart. Grant Hart, the drummer of the magnificent Husker Du. He was the drummer, co-lead vocalist, and co-songwriter. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. God bless Bob Mould. Guy's a monster on the guitar and one hell of a songwriter. But I'm a Grant Hart man. Grant always wrote the songs that really just got to me. Even more so than Bob Mould. And I put Bob Mould right up there near the peak. But Grant surpasses him as far as I'm concerned. So it was very exciting when Grant got a new group together after Husker Du, and they released this album, The Last Days of Pompeii. But it was extremely disappointing upon listening to it. Because, yeah, there's good songs on there, there's good playing on there, but the whole thing came across as just kind of half-baked, It's just like the entire album just didn't smack you in the face. It didn't spark, it didn't fire. Whereas, like, say, the first album by Sugar, which is Bob Mould's band after Husker Du, that just goes bam! Like the second you drop the needle in the groove, the first Sugar album, Copper Blue, is just like, it's incredible. Last Days of Pompeii does not do that. The good news is that, almost 20-something years after the original Last Day of Pompeii, Grant Hart did a comprehensive remix of Last Days of Pompeii and recorded a whole bunch of new parts for it. He basically took the album and rebuilt it from the ground up. And he always called it the remastered version. Whenever I talked to him, in fact, I said it a couple of times. I said, Grant, why don't you remix Last Days of Pompeii? And he was like, oh, yeah, maybe. And one day, I was attending one of his shows. He said, hey, man, I've remastered The Last Days of Pompeii. I said, remastered? How come you didn't remix it? And he looked a little bit crestfallen, like he was expecting me to be delighted that he remastered it. He said, well, it's good. I said, hey, man, no problem. I'd be happy to listen to it and check it out when it comes out. It did come out, and I don't know why he said remastered, but he did remix it. Light and dark, night and day, a world of difference between the original and this one. This is the one you're going to listen to. With one exception. One exception. Side 1, track 2. A song called Wotan. Long story short, this is a rock opera song cycle, science fiction story based on Werner von Braun and the eruption of Vesuvius. And In the second song of the album, one of the protagonists is begging Wotan, the Norse, the Greco, I guess Norse god of thunder, for help. And it's a great song. I love that song. It's so good. Problem being, on the original, the drums were mixed so high that they obliterated the melody and the music. About all I can hear is the damn snare drum. When Grant remixed it, he overcompensated for that and mixed the drums so low that when the song is supposed to go whack, whack, whack on you, it just kind of like goes... Ugh. It's like somebody takes the valve of the beach ball and lets all the air out. You never get the hit that you want from Wotan, the song. That bothered me for 35 years. I've never heard a version of Wotan that really floated my boat. So along comes this thing called AI. And the concept of demixing. There is a YouTube channel, you know where my channel is hosted. It's a guy who does these really detailed dissections of Beatles albums. And I'm the kind of guy who will watch those videos and get a thrill out of them. And he was one of the first guys on the AI demixing bandwagon. He really hyped it up because Peter Jackson, the guy who did the 9-hour-long Beatles Get Back documentary, used AI extensively to demix and then remix the tracks. What that means is that he was able to take tracks that were recorded live onto mono tape and using AI break them down into their constituent parts. He was able to take a flawed mono tape and break it down into guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, and then remix them. And one of the things about the Get Back tapes was that George Harrison seemed to be off mic for like 99% of them. Whether he was talking or singing or playing guitar, for whatever reason, it seemed like George Harrison was like hardly audible for a lot of those sessions. Lo and behold, using AI technology, Peter Jackson was able to break the tracks down, and whatever part George had, he was able to raise it to a level where you could hear it. Revolutionary. Incredible. For fanboys and audiophiles such as myself, this is big news. So it took a little while for AI technology in the demixing department to get available to the public and user-friendly, but it finally did. So when that happened, I checked it out. I searched the internet, looked. I would like record a sample track of some sort, upload it to the AI program, and have it split into guitar, bass, drums, vocals. And what I would do is I would listen to each individual track. The bass track, the guitar track, the drum track, or the vocal track. Individually, the tracks sounded like dog meat. They sounded horrible. They sounded lossy. They sounded compressed. They were full of artifacts. And I was just thinking, how could this possibly be any good? You've got 4 tracks and each one of them sounds like garbage. You're supposed to... This is the future of demixing and remixing? This junk? Forget it. But, you know, the train kept a rolling and the term demixing and remixing kept coming up and people were just ranting and raving about it. So I thought, okay, maybe there is something to it. Maybe there is. So I did it again, tried a little bit of demixing and then remixing with raising levels. And it still sounded terrible because I would raise the level of something and all I could hear was this compressed MP3 garbagey sound. And I'm like, screw this. This is jive. I don't know what people are talking about. It's obviously bullshit and I ain't buying it. So turned my back on it and walked away. But then I started thinking. I started thinking about what I actually heard on each track. What I came to realize was that what I was hearing on each track was a very imperfectly split track, and a lot of the extraneous noise was artifacts from the other tracks. In other words, if you isolated the bass track, there'd be all this extraneous noise all over it, which were like little bits and pieces of the guitar track or the vocal track that had similar frequencies. So the bass track alone sounded like garbage. But in theory, if you mixed everything together at a somewhat equal level, wouldn't those artifacts just kind of blend back into where they came from? So if you've got little slivers of guitar sounds on the bass track, they should just disappear when you mix them with the guitar track. Makes sense? So I did a more judicious test of it, and lo and behold, it worked. It worked. The key I found was to not crank up the levels too high when doing the remix, but to try to keep everything at a nice even balance, to raise things just enough to where you could hear them, or take things down just enough to where they weren't obnoxious. And the results were spectacular. And one of the first things I did was I grabbed my copy of The Last Days of Pompeii, and I recorded Wotan, and then I did the D-mix, and I got the stems, and I boosted those drums and applied a little bit of judicious EQ, a little bit of bottom end boost, a little bit of high end tweak, mixed them, and all of a sudden, there it was. The version of Wotan I've been waiting to hear for 35 years. It was a goosebump moment. It was wonderful. At that very moment, I became absolutely bearish. Strike that. Bullish on the use of AI to correct tracks. From that moment onward, there was no stopping Malcolm Tent, baby. Second thing I did, something that had been bothering me even longer than the Nova Mob record. Oh yeah, even longer than the Nova Mob record. 1984, my original Florida punk rock band, Broken Talent. We did a recording session at the University of Miami. A guy we knew was an engineer at one of the studios, one of the student-run recording studios down there. He invited us to come in and record some stuff for free. All we had to do was supply the blank tape. Fantastic. You know, recording studio time. I mean, like the cheapest studio time you could possibly get back then was $20 an hour. And we were broke. So free studio time, we're on it. So we go down there, we record the session. To make a very long story short, the way that this guy engineered the session was bizarre. It was a 4-track studio. Instead of recording vocals on one track, guitar on another track, bass on one track, and drums on the 4th track, which you could then mix, right, to get all the levels for each instrument nice and level. Instead, he decided to group everything by frequencies. So it was something along the lines of, and I don't think I could even begin to get this right. He did something like put the bass guitar and the kick drum on one channel. He put the vocals and the cymbals on another channel. He put the guitar and the snare on another channel. And he put the, I don't even know what, on the 4th channel. So if you want to go to mix it, and let's just say, as the case was, the vocals were not as loud as the cymbals, you couldn't do anything about it. And if the kick drum was completely buried by the bass guitar, there's nothing you could do about it. All you could have was what was on the tape that was grouped together by frequencies. It was so weird. So yeah, no kick drum and no vocals. And in 1984, you couldn't fix it. You just could not fix it. In 94, you could kind of fix it. I was able to take the tape into a friend's studio who had a multi-track recorder, and I was able to overdub a kick drum part onto the master tape. Okay, so now we got a kick drum part, but we still got no vocals. The vocals are too quiet. How do you bring the vocals up? You can't bring the vocals up. And that's where it stood for about 30 dang years. Then AI came along. Oh my God. Riding on the crest of the wave of my success with my fan remix of the Nova Mob, I wanted to see if I could resurrect the vocals in this Broken Talent session from 1984. So I did the same thing. And I must stress again, the isolated vocals that I got by using AI sounded so bad. They sounded terrible. They sounded like they were recorded underwater. But by Cracky, when I mixed those vocals in with the rest, it just all blended together practically seamlessly. And I was able to raise those vocals up to where you could actually hear them loud and clear. Not so much to where you could hear all the artifacts, but just right in the mix to where it just was perfect. It was perfect. I almost wept, my friends. I almost shed a tear. I'd waited 41 years to hear the fruits of our labors. There's a couple of songs on that session that never got released. We never put them out in any way, shape, or form. Now, Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, the new, improved, updated Broken Talent anthology is going to come out in 2026 with these newly demixed and remixed tracks, plus a few other things that never got their mixes done correctly to begin with, and a few other things that I was able to access the master tapes to. So for the first time ever, the Broken Talent catalog is going to be available in something resembling hi-fi. A lot of our stuff was recorded on the cheap. We only did one professional studio session ever, and even that suffered from terrible mix problems. I fixed them all. I fixed them. I am so happy about this. So the world debut of the new improved Broken Talent catalog is going to happen sometime this year. And there you go. All because of this technology, which I, inherently and naturally am extremely suspicious of and distrustful of, and which has been used to make a lot of really stupid bullshit, can be used for good purposes. And I am extremely happy with what I've gotten so far. What else did I demix and remix? Well, for business purposes, excuse me, I had another tape that I made in 1995. This one right here, Anti-Scene, CBGB, September 20th, 1995. Blazing performance with them and Rancid Vat. The boys were on fire this night. I paid the sound man $5 to make a tape recording off the board. He did, got the recording, and it was a typical soundboard recording. Drums and vocals way up in the mix, guitars and basses way down in the mix. Listenable, but not the kind of thing that makes you go, same deal. 30 years, I tried to find ways to fix this thing, to use compression, to use EQ, to blend it with the audience recording made that night. Nothing worked. The closest came when I gave it to my ancestor in Anti-Scene, John Bowman, who's a couple of bass players before me. He was able to work some pretty good results with it by blending the audience tape with the soundboard tape. But it still didn't go kapow. Here comes the AI in 2025, and sure enough, I demixed that mother scratcher. And for the first time in 30 years, got the guitars up to where they should be, got the bass up to where they should be, dropped the vocals and the drums just a smidgen. Bam. Killer representation of anti-scene at CBGB. I'm going to do Rancid that next because they were fantastic that night, and I've been waiting so long to be able to listen to the soundboard tape of their performance as well. But yeah, AI, demixing and remixing. I'm in love with it. Grant Den, who's tuned in right now, my old compatriot and broken talent. Grant, you might like this one. You might like this one. I mentioned earlier the Beatles. Yes, the Beatles. The four lovable mop tops from Liverpool. Those guys, the Beatles. One of the most fabled Beatles recordings of all time was the recording made when they auditioned for Decca Records, January 1st, 1962. A mere 64 years ago. Pete Best on drums. They failed the audition. Sometime around the mid-1980s, the tape actually surfaced and was immediately bootlegged. The bootlegs that came out were mastered at the wrong speed and suffered from the live, on-the-fly mix that was made that day. The mix on the Beatles Decca tapes is all over the place. Mostly the vocals are too loud. Mostly the drums are too quiet. And the bass guitar just comes and goes. Sometimes it's really right up front and in your face. Other times it simply isn't there. And even with correcting the pitch to make up for how the record was mastered at the wrong speed, the crappy mix really kind of ruins one's enjoyment of listening to these songs. It's like historically important and really fascinating stuff. And if you're a Beatles fan like myself, the kind of thing you really want to listen to. Well, we'll just ignore that. That didn't happen. All right, it happened. 1 second, please. This is the spirit of cable TV, brought to you live on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and archived forever on my YouTube channel. Oh, yes. Anyway, the Beatles Decca tapes, poorly mixed. 2025 technology comes along, and I, as a raving fanboy, take it upon myself to demix and then remix the Beatles Decca tape, going song by song. And it was, I swear, nothing short of miraculous. Like, I was able to, as needed, drop the vocals, raise the bass, raise the drums, flatten out the guitars, and make my own fanboy mix to where now actually is a listenable album from start to finish with all the levels where they should be. And it's a whole new... All right, I give up already. It is a whole new listening experience. You don't have to sit there straining to hear what should be there. It actually is there. And I made a CD of it. I've played it every day just about since I made it. And gosh dang it. Said it before and I'll say it again. I'm very suspicious of new technology. I don't like what is being done with it by the vast unwashed clot of filthy humanity out there. But it's still a good thing. And it has been done correctly and properly by true artists, by true musicians, by real creative people. And I just love doing what I think is the right thing with it, at least for my purposes. And the fact that now anybody really can do it. Like, my next project is going to be the infamous Cold Lake album by Celtic Frost. The Celtic Frost album everybody loves to hate. I mean, mainly because it was their so-called glam metal album mainly because the album cover had the worst band photo of all time on the back. Even getting past the band photo on the back, listening to the album is very difficult because of the mix problems. It's all drums and vocals, with the guitars and the basses so far down on the mix you can't hear the damn things. And I've often maintained that Cold Lake, if you just don't look at the album cover back, if you just do not look at that band photo on the back of that album cover, don't look at it, for God's sake. If you could just get past the Verschlungener mix, you'd probably have a pretty good Celtic Frost album. Well, just because I'm that raving fanboy, that's my next project, strictly for funsies. I got a few other things for the TPOS catalog, but in this case, funsies come first, because I've always wanted to hear a good version of Cold Lake by Celtic Frost. And I'm going to work on that next for my own enjoyment. And I may very well master the art of posting some of these things on YouTube just so people can check it out and hear what all of what I consider to be the hubbub is all about, and to show the possibilities of what you can do when you've got the right tools in your toolbox, both as a fan and as a creator. It's very exciting. So that's it. Man meets AI in the recording studio, and the verdict is thumbs up. I'll be doing plenty more in the foreseeable future. That is faux show. And I see a whole bunch of comments that have come in here, and I'm going to log off and take a look at them and react later on with them. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for your input, and thanks for digging my output. Just a very quick roundup of what's going on. We got the Abdullah the Butcher 85th birthday party and banquet and Q&A session. Anti-Scene is playing. We're playing on the 10th. Q&A session's on the 9th. It's going to be great. Lincolnton, North Carolina Record Show, January 17th. I will be set up with 2 tables full of musical goodness. Gastonia Record Show, February 28th, in Gastonia. Once again, I'll be selling, and wheeling and dealing. And we've also got Malcolm Tent and Pissy Chrissy live in Bristol, Tennessee on March 14th. That's going to be an event to remember. And other things coming, which you'll hear all about on Tent Talks Tunes. Thank you, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for listening. I do hope to be back in about 167 hours' time. Until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Tar Heel State.